What we're looking at here in 3.5 is really just factoring a trinomial. These are kind of the easier types of trinomials. Some people call them type 1. And what we're looking at here is that it's a trinomial where there's just an x squared. There's no coefficient in front of it other than the 1. Now, when we look at these guys, we've been practicing expanding. So this is called factored form, right? When it's these brackets and they're multiplied with each other. So factor means you're multiplying. The expanded form is when you do first times first, the outside one. So you probably heard people say FOIL. First times first, which would get me x squared. Then the last one with the last one, or the outside, sorry, outside. So the outside with the outside would get me 3x. And then you would do the two inside ones, so I stands for inside. That would get me the negative 2x. And then the last one with the last one, so the last one with the last one. So that would be negative 2 times 3, so negative 6. So this is called F for first, first times first. The O stands for outside, outside, outside. I stands for the two inside, and L stands for last, the two last ones. A lot of people use the word FOIL for that. And then you collect up the like terms and go, okay, well, this would be the same thing as x squared. Positive 3x minus 2x gets me 1x, invisible 1x, minus 6. So when they did a whole bunch of these, they noticed that the first times the first, so when you did this FOIL part, so when you did the first times the first, you got the x squared. Then you did the two outside ones, x4x. And then you did these two here, the inside ones will be plus 5x, and the two last ones plus 20. What they noticed was a pattern. When they collected these like terms, they said that's x squared, 9x, and 20. And they said that's interesting because the first times the first is x times x, so it's always going to be x squared. These two last terms, negative 2 and the 3, are my L. That'll always be the last number there. Then the middle two terms are the negative 2 and the 3 added together to get the middle term. That's the negative 2 and the 3. And that always happens. So here, the first times the first gets me my x squared. The last times the last got me my positive 20. And when you add those two numbers together, the 5 and the 4, positive 5 and positive 4, you get positive 9. So then they went, can't we go backwards and forwards from here? So I'm going to skip this little part here. And then this is the expanded form. And I want to go backwards, and I want to get the two brackets. So these two brackets, use this pattern to factor the following. Look for common factors first. Yes, always go to common factor first. Do I see a common factor with those three terms? No. So we always want to look for common factor first before doing any factoring question. So all factoring questions. It's always the first step. So no common factor, so then I go, okay, well, I see this pattern. It's x squared x with a number. So that's this idea, x squared x with a number. And so what we get here is that the first times the first must be x times x. I know that the last is going to be the two last numbers here that made the 8. So that 8 I know is either going to be 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. So that's product. The product is 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. And I want the sum to add up to be this middle term of 6. So if I have a 1 times a 8, that gets me 8. I have a 2 times a 4, that gets me 8 as well. But these two are the only two that will add up to make a 6 if they are both positive. So it's a positive 2 and a positive 4. So then that makes it plus 2 and a plus 4. They multiply, the last times the last gets me the 8, and they add to get to the middle. So that's the product sum, 2 plus 4, right? So positive 2 and positive 4, that gets me this pattern. So try it again, looking at this pattern. So if I was to expand it, it would be first times first, right? Which would be FOIL, so first x squared. Then the two outside ones would be negative 3x. The two middle ones would be positive 6x, so here. and then the two last ones would be minus 18. So you bring those together. So look, it's negative 3 and a positive 6. And when you bring them together, so now we're going from here back to factored form, going back and forth. What happens if there's x's and y's mixed up? So as long as they're a matching set like this, it still works the same. So we're going to say first times first, so it's first one's x squared. Then we do outside one, so it'll be 5, and it's xy. So we take both of those two variables. These two here, we get 3yx, which is xy. And then the last two, 3y times 5y, is 15y squared. Look at these two middle terms. That's the 3 and the 5. The 3 times the x, 3y times the x, and the 5y times the x. So that's my two middle terms. So it's still 3 and 5 to make the 8. So it still works out the same way, except we have the balance of the y's and the x's. So x squared, y squared, and in the middle they meet xy. So x squared, y squared, in the middle they'll meet xy. It's the same here. We're going to get x squared and a y squared at the end, and in the middle there'll be x times y. So in the middle they'll meet. Okay, so that's where the pattern comes from. So here, again, we know if it's just an m, it's going to be m and an m. The two m's multiply times each other to get me the first times the first. That's the FOIL part, F part of the FOIL. The last number is the 12, so I know that the product is going to be 1 times 12, or 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. But the sum, people write this part differently, the sum I want it to add to negative 4. So if I know it multiplies, you have to watch the signs. The signs are really, really important. Sometimes you get the numbers, but the signs are backwards. So I know it multiplies to negative 12, so I need one positive and one negative, right? I need a positive and a negative. So where am I going to put the positive negative if I'm adding to negative 4? So if I'm adding to negative 4, I want it to add to negative 4, so I want the bigger number to be negative. So here, these two can get to 4. 2 and 6, as long as it's a positive 2 and a minus 6. So positive 2 and a minus 6, they add to negative 4. So those are the two numbers I put here, positive 2 and minus 6. Okay, let's try it again. So here, I can see it's x squared, x, and 24, right? It's two of them here, half of them in the middle there, so you can see the pattern of a trinomial. We know that it's going to be x and x, like that. And then the last times the last. That's the first times the first. The last times the last is always this last number. Right? Remember, we're just doing this distributed. First times first, last times last. So my last times the last gets me negative 24. So then, again, my product I'm going to get is 124. So you can do just commas sometimes in between. Sometimes people list it. Some people list it like this, or a chart. You can do a chart as well. 2, 12. I'm just showing you all the different ways. It doesn't even matter how you write it on the side. Everything here is rough work, right? So you're not getting marked for this. You're just putting it onto the side, onto the rough paper, right? Here I'm going to do it on the page so you can see. So 2, 12, 3, 8, and 4, 6. You can list it. Then my sum has to be which two of these, knowing from here that I have a positive and a negative, to add to a positive 5. So that will never add, the only one that will add to a positive 5 is this one, my product, as long as it's a positive 8 and a negative 3. So then you go positive 8 and a minus 3, and that's it. Okay, so the trick is finding those two numbers. Over here, we're going to try it again. And see, this is the one like I showed you about. If it's x squared, y squared, and they meet in the middle, that they have half of each. So I have one x here and one y there, and they have one of each. So then that means the FOIL did still work. So we've got here x, x, and on the side here, for this y, I have a y times a y. So it's just like this bracket. So it'll be xy, 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 xy. So then I need the number. And again, I want the product. This is on the side. I want the product to be -5. So it's going to be 1 and 5. Oh, there's no other choice. 1 and 5. So 1 and 5 is my only choice. As long as, look, this is a positive and a negative to get a negative. So I want it to be a -4, so it's a -5 and a +1. So over here, you write -5 and a positive invisible 1. We don't write that 1 there. It's just invisible, like that. So we kind of erase it there. -5 and a +1. And you can always check it. So you go x times x gets me x squared. X times y got me xy. And this times this gets me -5xy, which adds to 4. And last times last gets me -5y squared. So you can always expand it to check. With these questions, you can pause when I'm talking and then try the question again. So if I'm going too fast, make sure that you pause and try it again. So we're going to try a whole bunch here. And as I'm working on it, then you can pause it and you can try it with me, or you can try it on your own. The first step always, common. So even though we see right here the 3, I go, wait, 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 there's a common factor of 3. So I see 3 throughout. Always look for common factor first step. So we're going to do this. 3, so going back to common factor, all 3 terms have a 3. So you're going to go bracket, and what's left over? I took a 3 out of each. Anything else I can take? P squared, P, nothing. So I'm going to leave the P squared. I took 3 out of this, so it's a P. And took 3 divided by that, so -6. This here, you're going to keep writing it. We don't want to get rid of it. And this. So it's P squared P. There's no number in front. So we're going to say what 2 numbers have a product of 6. So it's 1, 6, or 2, 3. And then which ones will add up to be an invisible, right? There's an invisible 1 here. Right, invisible 1 there. So the only 2 that will add up will be 2, 3. 2, 3. So as long as, and looking at the sign here, if that's negative, I know I have positive and a negative, so I need to put a positive negative here. So that would be, always look at the sign. It's important to look at the sign. So that would be a positive P. So that means the 3 was bigger and the 2 was negative. So -2 plus 3 gets me +1. So we're going to go P and a P. And so this will be a -2 and a +3. Okay. Always look for common factor first. So I see a 4. Yes, I can take a 4 out of all of them. Okay, so as I'm doing these questions, you can pause, try it, and then come back to the video. Right? Sometimes you're like, okay, I can do this now. I think I'm getting it. Pause, try, and then come back and get help on the video wherever you need it. So x squared, taking 4 out of all of them. There's nothing else I can take. This will be -6x, and 4 comes out of there. That'll be +8. 4 divides into 24, and 4 goes into 32. Okay, this is now a 1 in front, which makes it a quote-unquote easy or type 1, right? So it's x by x. So when you do the FOIL, it's just x times x. Then you go and say, okay, multiply. So I have a product of 1 and 8, 2 and 4, and I have nothing else. So knowing, now watch here. This one's different. This is a positive. So that's either plus plus or a minus minus. 2 negatives make a positive, or 2 positives make a positive. So going back over here, I need it to add to -6. This is the product. The last number is always the product. Last times last, first times first. So product is 8, 1, 8, 2, 4. It has to add to -6. And it has to be both the same sign because I have a plus. So if they're both negative here, that would be my answer. -2 minus 4. And they add to negative 6. All right, let's try that again. So we've got common factor. Anything there? Nothing, no common. So then we go ahead and we say, okay, this is still considered easy type 1, because it's got nothing in front, it's just a 1. So I'm going to go x times x. So the easy types are the ones where you can set up the first term like that. You set up the first term, so you go x times x gets me x squared. So that's supposed to be the easy type. Then what you're supposed to do is only look at the product and sum. So my product is negative 15, so it'll be 1. Let's worry about the signs after. So no signs now, so it'll be 1 and 15. You can do a little chart. 2 doesn't work, 3 and 5. And that's it. Right? Once you cycle around, you're at the same spot again. They have to be, so look at the signs. Okay, so we're always looking at the signs. So look at the signs here, look at the signs. So the sign for this one has got to be a positive negative, right? Because it's a minus. If it's a minus, it's a positive negative. If it's a plus, it's plus plus or minus minus. Okay, so it's a positive negative. Sorry, positive negative. Okay, so they've got 2 different signs to get that. So I have to use 2 signs here to get to the negative 2. So that would be, if it's a negative 2, the bigger one is negative and the smaller one is positive. It ends up with a negative. So you go negative, positive 3, minus 5. And then here, watch out, is we need to put the y. Okay, so that's careful with the y. Okay, a lot of people forget it just because you're so much concentrating on the signs and the numbers and everything else that you forget the y. This next one, I don't like factoring backwards. It makes me feel like I'm factoring backwards for some reason. So you are allowed to switch the order. See how this is an ascending M? So no M, 1M, 2M. We can rewrite it if you want. So remember in grade 9 we would tell you about rewriting it in ascending or descending order. So this is in descending order. I like to do this. Then I take out my common factor of negative 1, if you will. Right? It's the same thing, negative 1, invisible 1. And then you're left m squared plus m minus 16. So I factor out a negative 1. You can imagine the 1 here. So factor out negative from all of them. Then I can go ahead with a positive m squared. I don't like factoring with a negative in front. It throws me off. So I switch the order, and then I factor out the negative, and then now I know that it is going to be, leave the negative there, m times m. So when I can do this, this is considered the easy type or the type 1 trinomial. So m times m is m squared. Multiplies to negative 16, so the product is 1, 16, 2, 8, or 4, 4. Because of this sign, it's a positive negative. Oh, positive negative, sorry, positive 1. Positive negative. Which 2, using a positive negative, can I get to get a 6? I need a positive negative to get a positive 6. That would be a positive 8 minus a 2. Positive 8 minus 2, and you put that here. It's a positive 8 minus a 2. So you're allowed to common factor out that negative. This part is a bit tricky, but you can common factor out the negative. Let's try that again. I don't like the order. Okay, I don't like it backwards. For some reason, it just throws me off. So I'm going to fix the order. So it's in descending order. I look at that and go common factor. My common factor is going to be negative, and look, I actually have an x. You can take out x, so take out as much as you can. I'm left with x squared minus 6x and a minus 7. When you get that, you go, oh, it's my simple type 1 trinomial, x squared x number. I'm going to write down the negative x here. And then look, this will just be 2 brackets with x in it. Okay, and you're going to do your product sum. over here on the side. So I have a product of -7, so 1, 7. Oh, you have no choice. You have no choice. It's 1, 7. And then you're going to choose those two numbers, but I want them to be here, positive, negative. So it'll be a -7 and a positive 1. So -7 and a +1. Why do I keep putting +1? It's plus minus, sorry. Plus minus, plus minus, plus minus, plus minus. So positive and a negative. Okay, FG, there's nothing common. FG, and we're going to do the same thing. So FG, we know that there's nothing in front of the F, so it's just going to be F, F like that. And then we know it's G and G here for the FG. And there's no number in front, so we're just multiplying to 18, so product is 18. So 1, 18, 2, 9, 3, 6, I think that's it. And it cycles around to 6, 3, which just means the same thing. Because it is a plus, it's a plus plus or minus minus. It has to add to -11, so I'm anticipating that they're both minus minus. So which ones add to -11? That would only be this pair here. So -2 minus 9 gets me -11, and it multiplies to 18. Okay, we're trying it again. Again, pause the video if you want time to think. We're doing this one. There's this 1 in front, nothing common. So we're just going to go ahead and go K, K, J, J. So it's K squared, J squared. They meet in the middle, KJ. Oh, look, I'm missing a K. That's my mistake. That should be a K. KJ. Oh, I should fix that. Sorry. Fix that. Should be a KJ in the middle. Does it say factor if possible? No. Oh, if possible. So you know what? That's not possible. So I didn't have to fix it. It's actually just not possible. Do you see what happened? Is that this was a 7 and a J. And look, it's K and a J, K squared, J squared. They're supposed to meet in the middle. So I would say not possible, because the term in the middle was supposed to have one of each. There's a K squared, J squared, and they're supposed to meet in the middle. So this one's not possible because of the KJ. Needs KJ here. There you go. Ha, almost tricked myself. All right, try this one. There's a 1 in front, nothing common. And we're going to go D, D, meets in the middle with a single D, multiplies. So product is going to be 110, 25, and that's it. Is there any way I can add it to -11? Only, and look here, so it's positive, positive, or negative, negative. So I can choose this one if they were both negative, negative. So -1, -10, and it adds to -11. One last one. If you don't like the order backwards, which I don't, I like it descending order. I just move them around. I'm not solving, I'm just moving them around. So I'm putting this one first, this one middle there. I'm just rewriting it. Again, if it's a simple, then you go M, product 24. Oops, sorry, P is 24, so it'll be 124, 212, 38, or 46. So yeah, you have to be able to know your products to multiply to 24. This tells me it's plus plus or minus minus. Right, these are just your thoughts. I need -10, and I need them to be the same sign. So these guys do -10, but they're not the same sign. So the only one that could do the same sign would be this, negative and negative. So sometimes there's two choices, but you have to choose the one where it matches the sign. So it's negative 4 minus 6, which adds to negative 10. So sometimes, look, 12 and 2 would make 10, but not if they're both the same sign. That would be negative 14 or positive 14. So that doesn't work. It has to be the same sign. So do look at the signs. The signs are really important. If you don't look at the signs, sometimes you get the wrong numbers, the wrong set. So always look at the signs. And keep practicing this. This is a very important idea. Right? And again, you're looking at the signs of the last one. So if they're different signs, you know they're different. If it's a plus, you know it's plus, plus, or minus, minus.